WANM-FM 90.5. I am Gensen Surpris.
And I'm Robert Tucker. President Joe Biden recently announced a national month of action with the goal of getting 70% of U.S. adults vaccinated against the coronavirus by July 4th.
The National Month of Action includes several initiatives, including free childcare for those vaccinated and more outreach and education on COVID-19 vaccine. Join us to discuss the initiative further is the lead doctor of the White House COVID-19 response and senior advisor, Dr. Marcella Nunez-Smith. How are you doing today, doctor?
Yeah, it's great to be with you both. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for gracing us with a brief period of your time. As I mentioned earlier, you're saving the world, so I understand. Just a quick icebreaker. From March 2020 until now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your life experience as a whole?
Oh, what? Yes, that's a good question. It's been a rough year for a lot of people, right? More than a year. And so, I'm like a lot of other folks. I have young kids. I was trying to do a lot while also thinking about, virtual school and other things, worried about loved ones, knowing people who were particularly at risk and vulnerable for COVID-19. So just a lot of that. And of course, really, in these past few months, just working very hard, along with so many other people, just as part of the federal administration, thinking about making sure that we as a country, everybody gets through and, to the other side of this pandemic. But just in a much different place. You took me to a hard place there, March 2020. So, just grateful to be, in a different place now, blessed, grateful, as a country too. Just a really hopeful moment, a lot of optimism. We are so fortunate to have vaccines. You look around the globe, people really want the vaccines. We're going to do a lot there as the United States too, but we have vaccine here for everybody in the country. And that's the tool that we need in the toolbox to just, reclaim our joy.
Amen.
Absolutely. I'm glad you answered that because I do have a question regarding that. So, in what ways do you believe African Americans can feel safe to receive the COVID-19 vaccination, especially hearing about the matters of the Johnson & Johnson?
Yeah, that's right. So much of my time I get to spend in conversation just with folks, many of whom or who are deliberating really about the vaccine and have really important questions that need to get answered, just like you said. All right. One of the questions we often get is specifically around safety, right? And like, how safe are these vaccines? And so I always want to sort of start by correcting the record for folks because there's a lot of misinformation out there, right? So, people think the vaccine was like made really quickly, made overnight. Not everybody knows these been in the making for over 2 decades, right? So over 20 years, people have been working on these vaccines. In this past year, because of our urgency, everybody, all hands on deck, but no steps were skipped whatsoever in getting that vaccine through all the processes, right? No political interference either in any of the processes. So important to say. And how wonderful that we had representation. We were in those trials, right? And so I always say to people, if you're looking for yourself in the trial, you're going to see yourself there, right? And so in those phase 3, the late stage clinical trials, 30% of folks identifying as people of color. So just key to know that. And then we see that they work. Thank the Lord.
The proof is in the pudding. I don't know why people don't believe.
Yes, they work, and they work to keep people away from serious illness, out of the hospital, and quite frankly, alive. So we are just incredibly grateful. We know the abundance of caution, right to your question, specifically, like when the pause for J&J, abundance of caution. The system was working. And that to me increased my confidence. Like the system could find really a few cases after almost 8 million doses had been given. So now doctors have the guidance to be able to look and see and to provide advice to their patients. We have 3 authorized vaccines in the country. So people, can in fact, we know that there are different vaccine teams that have emerged. People can be team Pfizer, team Moderna, team J&J, whatever they like. But importantly, now when we think about the variants, oh my goodness, now more than ever, I say to people, we got to get vaccinated.
Understood. So would you be able to briefly talk to us about the Shots at Shops initiative and what that means for minority community, specifically people of color?
No, absolutely. President Biden, Vice President Harris from the beginning, they were like, listen, we're gonna be fast, we're gonna be equitable. We're gonna meet people where they are, make sure everybody gets the information that they need so they can make their own personal choice about getting vaccinated. But once somebody wants to get vaccinated, we're gonna make sure you have access to getting vaccinated. And so that this is one example, is a whole portfolio, but I think it's a really important one, working so closely with the rest of the folks on the White House COVID-19 response team, Dr. Cameron Webb and others, and working with Dr. Stephen Thomas, a long-term colleague at University of Maryland. But, it's what we know. Like, people, we hang out in the shop, right? And so this is about the connection with, in particular, Black-owned barbershops, beauty salons, and saying this can be a place to get good information, also even to get vaccinated on site. So it's a partnership. Shea Moisture is stepping up. So many corporate sponsors have stepped up to help be the fiscal backing for this. But the idea is to engage 1,000 shops across the country, really to make sure that wherever folks are, they're going to be able to access information and even connect with vaccine.
So for clarity, at these specific, or maybe not all of them, but at some of these specific shops, they will be able to get vaccinated at the shop.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have a partnership now. We're going to say, listen, this is all local work, right? But the health providers, the health systems right there can work with barbershops, get people vaccinated right at the shop, when the shop is closed on Monday. But but come on by and get vaccinated. And this is key. I also want to say today, the American Hospital Association announced that for employers, like any employer who wants to be able to provide vaccination on site for people who work there, that the American Hospital Association will help find a partner to do that. So this is all about, like, what's convenient. We got to make it easy. It's already free, no out-of-pocket costs. You don't need insurance, anything like that. Everyone in the country, 12 and older, is eligible for free vaccine.
Right. So we know how sometimes, 12, the age group from 12 to 18 sometimes have issues and speculations regarding, less knowledge about the vaccine. So do you believe that incentives should be included for certain age groups to receive the vaccination?
Let me tell you, I think right now it is all hands on deck. And I, too, have been looking with, great awe and wonder at some of the ideas that people are coming up with. But, we say, yeah, like, it's going to motivate people differently. And so we have to think about, what's going to encourage people to take that last final step. When you talk about kids in particular, I think it's so important for all your listeners to understand, because what I hear a lot is like, oh, the kids aren't at risk and, we don't have to get vaccinated. Look, the CDC came out last Friday with a report showing us that kids in exactly that age range, hospitalizations are up. When we look across to the UK, this is that variant conversation, because now we're battling this Delta variant, right? And we see Delta variant is kind of becoming dominant in the UK. It's more transmissible, riskier, more dangerous, right, than the other variants we've seen. And over there in particular, 12 to 20-year-olds, right, are the ones dealing with this Delta variant. It's already here in the United States. It's around the globe. It's already 6% of cases that we see here that we sequence, and we don't sequence 100%, right? So it's here. We know that the vaccines we have are effective against the Delta variant, but more information to say we have to get our kids vaccinated too.
Yes, ma'am. So definitely, our audience consists of college age minorities. Definitely don't feel like because you're young, you're exempt from this conversation. So before we run out of time, I want to give you some quick questions from our audience members. You can give really quick answers. We'll just run through these on the way out. So I'll start with myself, actually. I'm a third-year biology pre-medicine student, aspiring physician. So briefly, I know it's a long journey, but briefly, what advice would you give to I would say specifically a Black male aspiring physician, because we're so underrepresented?
Yes, we need you and we want you. It's the greatest profession. I love being a physician. And I'm like, you're gonna find those folks. I'm here for you. Find your folks who are gonna help you, gonna wrap you up, get you through this process. Because it is long, but it is so powerful and just amazing. And so I'm grateful that you're coming in. I can't wait to call you colleague.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Another question we have, I know you spoke briefly about variants. One of our audience members wants to know what is the timeline on boosters, and are variants a cause or something that goes into play as far as booster shots?
Yeah, it's great to talk about boosters. So, it's still a little bit of like choose your own adventure, I say, with the boosters, because the more people who get vaccinated, the quicker. Then the later we can push that out, right? And even thinking about it. So, absolutely right from the questioner. One of the considerations is the variants. We're at a point right now where all the variants in circulation, our vaccines work. So get vaccinated. That's how you guarantee that. But we'll be looking at other things. There might be subgroups. Older people might need a booster. So, all that work is in process, but don't worry. The government's, the administration's got plans for all the different scenarios. But what you can do right now is get vaccinated, and that helps tamper down on all the variants. That's what we need.
Understood. One more, and I think Robert, you might have something to add to this. FAMU currently we have a free vaccination site on campus at our basketball stadium. One of the audience members wants to know if the administration is interested in doing something at all HBCU communities, or at least most of them, to have another outlet for the minority community to get vaccinated.
And if not at the university, make sure the it's a testing site somewhere close. So a lot of students as well as residents at different cities, can come closer to as well as get tested as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. From the very beginning, for the administration, we've been talking with HBCUs. We all know the incredible assets, right? Every HBCU. So this is wonderful. We'll take back and make sure, right, that everyone has access. Just tremendous partners, but we want that. We want it easy, convenient for everybody. Of course, yes, for all of our college students, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Well, Robert, I'll leave it to you for the last question.
Okay. I appreciate that, brother. Yes, sir. So I just wonder because, some students, we feel like it was a scarce of vaccinations as well as the speculations how quickly the virus, it wasn't made quickly. However, it was miseducation on our part as well as, from certain sources. So do you think there will be more vaccinations involving different issues like other infectious diseases in the nearby future? Or you feel like this is just like the first component of one that will be just worried about for now involving coronavirus?
Yeah. No, it's great. So, one of the things particularly with the mRNA platform, right? That's the Pfizer, Moderna use that science and that technology. I think there's a lot to be really excited about looking ahead. One of the things we know is that you can switch out, you can sort of switch out the blueprint for those relatively quickly. So if we did need, right, to this conversation about boosters and variants, then the mRNA platform is good for that. But certainly beyond that. So I think thinking about kind of other illnesses, but even implications for things like cancer from mRNA. So, thinking about this moment, but also how can this has been such an issue too for all our communities, just making sure we benefit from scientific discovery. And, I've often been shut out and left out of that. And so here is this opportunity with the vaccination, but also looking ahead, a lot of the conditions that we know, are really plaguing Black and brown communities, the potential for the science to help there too.
There you have it.
Yes, ma'am. If your time permits, I actually have one more question.
Okay.
So a part of the month of action is the We Can Do This National Vaccination Tour. The second gentleman, Douglas Emhoff, is visiting Tallahassee this week. So I just want to know, how significant is it for members of the first and second family of the administration to be out in these communities?
It is tremendous, right? Let me tell you, I think people need to know that. People need to know that the president, the vice president, they have set from the beginning this tone, right? We're going to go out. We're going to do this quickly because the urgency is now, but we're going to reach every community, and it's going to be about being equitable too. And I think we're so fortunate to have leaders who, talk the talk and walk the walk. And it is so important to see the first and second family just out, being sure to connect with people and say, look, the federal administration is here to help you with vaccine, but also after, right? I mean, we have a lot to do for recovery, and to say we are here, the government is here for now and for tomorrow.
Amen. Well, we thank you for joining us. Lastly, where can listeners go to find more about the Shots at Shops initiative? Or, I know CDC.gov has been all over the news, but just some general places that listeners can go if they want to find out more.
Yeah, so definitely CDC, as you point out, and that's a great place to go fact check for some of the stuff you might hear that's not quite right, right? So fact checking for sure. You can also go to the hhs.gov and the / we can do this and get more information. Also, where for Shots at the Shop, Shape Moisture again is a great corporate partner there. You can go there and get more information on their site as well. So definitely, what I say to folks: stay informed. I love it.
Knowledge is power. The one and
That's
only
right.
Dr. Marcella Nunez-Smith. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Well, once again, I am Gensen Surpris,
And I'm Robert Tucker II.
and you are tuned into the one and only, getting this exclusive straight from the White House, WANM-FM 90.5, the Flava Station.
Devastation.